Hello and welcome to Your Favourite Teacher. This video will explore nature and its place in the power and conflict cluster. Today, we're going to take a look at 4 poems that include the power of nature and its effect on man. For hundreds of years, poets have included nature in their writing to represent their thoughts and feelings on different topics. Often, nature is personified, showing the true strength the weather can have over man, acting as a gentle reminder that as humans, we're not as powerful as we think. The first poem we'll take a look at is Seamus Heaney's Storm on the Island. Heaney was an Irish poet who often used nature as a metaphor for human nature. Storm on the Island is centred around a small cottage by the sea in a storm and its exposure to the elements. On line 3, the speaker says, "The wizened earth has never troubled us." Wizened means shrivelled and wrinkled in age, so Heaney has personified the earth, making it seem like a wise old friend and something that shouldn't be feared. This represents a human's underestimation of the weather and the effect it can have on us and our homes or landmarks. Never is a strong adverb used to cement these thoughts and feelings and invites the reader to question what could go wrong, especially as the title hints at a storm. Soon after this line, the wind is also personified, using harsh-sounding verbs such as pummels and blast. These verbs begin to bring to light the true nature of the weather. Further down, the speaker says, "You might think that the sea is company, exploding comfortably down on the cliffs," which again shows how man underestimates nature's true power, using the oxymoron exploding comfortably, suggesting that because the violence of the weather is far away from most people, they feel more secure. Heaney ends the poem with "Strange, it is a huge nothing that we fear," another oxymoron to suggest that what we fear is invisible because you can't see the wind, just the destruction it leaves behind. This is similar to Wilfred Owen's Exposure, where the soldiers of World War I were anticipating the attack of their enemies, rather than the powerful effects the weather would have on them. At the beginning of the second stanza, the speaker says, "We hear the mad gusts tugging on the wire, like twitching agonies of men among its brambles." Here, the wind can be heard, but not seen, just like in Storm on the Island. The wind is personified and the barbed wire is turned into brambles, suggesting man's cheap imitation of nature. Again, this emphasises the power of nature over the man-made objects. The sound of the wind tugging on the wire reminds the soldiers of the horrors of the war. It's almost like it's teasing them. Later on in stanza 5, the speaker describes the snow. "Pale flakes with lingering stealth come feeling for our faces." This implies that the weather has a harsher effect on the soldiers than the actual battle, with it becoming unpredictable and constant, unlike the attacks from the enemy, which aren't as frequent. The soldiers cringe in holes, which creates an image of animals hiding from the weather. This animalises man, highlighting that for nature, humans are just another form of animal. Next, let's take a look at Wordsworth's The Prelude. Like both Exposure and Storm on the Island, the Prelude is about the power of nature over man and his fear of it. In the poem, the speaker steals a boat and proceeds to row across a lake, stopping and returning when he begins to fear nature. The first half of the poem shows nature in a positive light. Wordsworth uses phrases like summer evening, glittering idly, and sparkling light to suggest that the speaker enjoys being alone with nature and is quite comfortable. This semantic field creates a peaceful tone for the reader and shows how there is nothing to fear. This contrasts to both Exposure and Storm on the Island. However, halfway through, a volta indicates a change in tone. The speaker looks up to see a huge peak, black and huge, describing the mountain looming over him. Here, the language becomes darker and dangerous. This shows that although nature is considered calm and peaceful, it can also be seen as aggressive and intimidating. Enough so for the speaker to turn around. "With trembling oars I turned." This connotes the fear and vulnerability of the speaker. Like Exposure, he's presented as an animal in hiding. The final part of the poem uses darker, more sinister phrases, cleverly showing the darker side of nature in contrast to the opening, which uses a lot of light imagery. By doing this, Wordsworth has effectively portrayed both the positives and negatives of nature, whereas Heaney and Owen just portray the negative side. Finally, we have Percy Shelley's Ozymandias. Although not a typical poem to include under nature, it does have its part to play in the demise of the pharaoh Ramesses II, who thought his reign would outlive the weather. In the poem, the speaker talks of discovering a shattered visage, meaning a broken face, suggesting that it's unrecognisable and has no purpose anymore. The reader learns about Ozymandias, a cruel and oppressive ruler with a sneer of cold command. The detail gives the impression that he wasn't liked by his people, even though he believed he was the king of kings. To link this poem to the weather, it would be good to look at the final lines. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, the lone and level sands stretch far away. This shows that although Ozymandias thought he was the most powerful leader and would last forever, in reality, like most statues left uncared for, the elements have taken their toll. By using the adjective colossal to describe the wreck, it alludes to Ozymandias' huge ego rather than the statue, which is crumbled and decaying. Also, you have the phrase, level sands stretch far away, which highlights that they have outlasted the statue, juxtaposing the power and ego of the statue and the man who had it built. Also, sand is symbolic of time. Therefore, it reinforces the idea that the weather and nature will always outlast human marks on the world. Ozymandias contrasts well with the other poems discussed in this video, because its subject is one that looks at how nature has ultimate power and longevity in terms of those in power making their mark on the world. It is similar to Storm on the Island because both explore the idea of nature breaking down man-made objects. Remember, it's all about choosing the right poem that links to the theme, as well as being able to compare and contrast it with the one provided by the exam board. You can link Storm on the Island with the power of humans and fear, whilst Exposure can be linked to all things war-related. The Prelude also explores fear and individual experiences, whilst Ozymandias is also perfect for the power of humans. I hope you found this video useful. Make sure you have a look at other videos in the Power and Conflict series. I'm Miss Shaw, thanks for watching.